Vishnu Sahasranama Stotram, a journey into 1,000 names of the Almighty. Om Vishnave Namaha. 1,000 names of the Lord is the quintessence of the ancient Indian thought. Vishnu, the light that permeates from the seeming nothingness to apparent something as creation, is worshipped as the Lord of the past, the present, and the future of existence. The Vedic seers visualized the phenomenon called the creation sprouting from the subtlest to the grossest in layers, and the broadest of such division is in the threefold existence of matter, force, and consciousness. These planes of existence are symbolically called as Vishnu, Vasudev, Narayan, Sri Hari, meaning all that appears in shape, color, numbers, etc. is Vishnu. All that exists as the center or as the indweller of a unit, consciousness, from atom to man is Vasudev. And the universal consciousness, which is the one background of consciousness, Narayan. The Vedic seers recognized as Vishnu the all that exists as matter and apparent to the physical eye. To them, Vishnu is the permeation or pervasion of that one light. They worshipped all the forms, shapes, colors, etc. as the manifestation of the one Lord. Worshipping a form in exclusion of others is ignorance and leads anybody nowhere. Experiencing the Lord Vishnu is possible only by invoking him as everything apparent to the eye. Sarvakaram Vishnu Maya Hayami, a popular shloka uttered forth in every Vedic ritual. This is the pointer of this truth, and this is the basic and fundamental step towards the realization of truth, whom we call God. It is only the ignorance of this truth that leads to different religions and cults. The Vedic thought is to allow men to understand as to how he is common with others. Vishnu Sahasranam. The sacred scripture, Srimad Bhagavad Puran, repeatedly postulates the 3 steps of initiation. It has no religious propagation, but has only the spiritual instruction given out in simple and a straightforward manner. The author of Srimad Bhagavatam, as also Sri Mahabharata, Vedvyasi, a contemporary to Lord Krishna, gives out as one of the many invaluable gifts the Vishnu Sahasranam. This hints at many a secret of the phenomenon of creation packed in the names of the Lord. Each name has its significance and is used to denote the phenomenon in any of the three planes, the matter, force, and consciousness. The idea of chanting the 10,000 names of the Lord, Sri Vishnu Sahasranam, is invented by the composers of the ancient scriptures of India that came under the name of the Puran and Itihas. They carry the Stotra tradition found in the Veds, Brahmanas, and Upanishads. They convey this tradition to the mantra Shastra literature. The text of this scripture occurs in Mahabharata, the grand Itihas poem composed by Vedvyasi himself. It is given in the 13th book of the epic of Mahabharata, which is called Anushasanika Parvam, the volume of commandments. It is given by Bhishma just after the Mahabharata war. The composition of the book Mahabharata is also known as a contemporary one within the war. The author Vedvyasi was a contemporary of the Mahabharata war. Now, astronomically, calculations and internal evidences excuse me, prove that the war took place in the beginning of Kali Yuga. The composition of the present text is estimated to have taken place by all the scholars of tradition who unanimously agree approximately 5,117 years ago. The various opinions about the date of this contradicts each other but cannot be considered true. The infallible astronomical evidence of the dates tallies with the backdating of the various present calendars. And it also renders further facts. Sri Krishna, the Lord and the hero of this scripture, was born in the year Srimukh at the midnight time of the 8th moon phase of the darker half of the lunar month of Shravan, which corresponds with midnight between 19th and 20th of July 3228 BC. This information is interesting information, and I thought I'd share that with you. The Lord left his material body in the lunar year Pramadi after the sunrise of the lunar New Year's Day, February 3102 BC. And at that time, Lord Sri Krishna was running his 126th year of age. The Mahabharata war was fought when the Lord was running his 89th year. The context of this Vishnu Sahasranam and the background was the Mahabharata. After the Mahabharata war was finished, Bhishma lived in austerity and complete detachment. He was lying on a bed of 12 arrows arranged by Arjun and was awaiting his prescribed day of departure. Instigated by Sri Krishna himself, Yudishtra, with all his brothers and many of the other sages, approached Bhishma to have wisdom teaching. Bhishma was a highly learned person, After learning all the branches of wisdom and all the purificatory processes prescribed in the occult sciences, Yudishtra finally asked Bhishma, who is the one God for all the beings of all the planes? We talked about the planes in um, one of the other sessions, all the 14 planes, 7 upper, 7 below, etc. So we're talking about that. So Yudishtra is asking Bhishma Pitamaha, who is the one God for all the beings on all the planes? Who is the one refuge of all? By praying whom and worshipping whom the human beings live auspicious. According to you, who is the embodiment of the law governing all the laws? Above all, what is that one has to chant to liberate himself from the limitations of birth, of objectivity? Now, to these questions, Bhishma answered, invoke the Lord of the universe, the God of all gods, the eternal one, who is the supreme person of all persons by his 1,000 names. Vishnu Sahasranam. Praise with devotion, meditate, worship, and bow down to that person who is unspendable and who pervades all the persons. Always pray the Lord of pervasion, who has no beginning or no end, who is the Lord of all the planes and the one who sees through all. You will surpass all difficulties, all the afflictions in your life when you pray to this Lord. Know the Lord as the abode of the cosmic consciousness, as the wisdom of all the laws, and as the one who brings light to all the planes of consciousness. He is the one beyond all, the birth of all and everyone, and the one who is eternally never before. This, to my consciousness, is the command beyond commandments, the highest of the light, the highest of devotion, the highest of expansion, and the highest of the culmination of all that is found here. The purity of the pure and the desirability of every auspicious attitude is He who is the God of gods and the Father eternal of all beings. Along with the beginning, all the entities come out of Him in the beginning. Along ending, all culminate in Him. To Him belong the 1,000 names, which expel the fear of sin. The qualities of this King will be explained by names conceived by all beings. The seer sings his glory by each one and all of the names. This is the opinion of the one who has initiated us into the Lord consciousness on that occasion. And that is none other than Sri Krishna, Sri Hari, Vishnu in the Vishnu Sahasranama. Now, the significance and the splendor of these names, it brings about purity, freedom, safety, fame, wealth, divine experience, wisdom, and intelligence. Mantra chanting. Mantra, we talked about what it is in our session in mantras. Mantra means a composition of sounds, forming a word or a set of words which may convey all the intellectual import of some consistency. This composition of sounds should be vocally uttered and mentally thought of. The whole process, when we comprehend this, opening the path of the upper processes called meditation. Through this process, each one of us begins to expand into the deeper levels in himself, within ourselves, and we shine the purer form. The most popular and the most effective stotra, Vishnu Sahasranam. Some special features of the text. This 1,000 names composed in a very, very practical view. The simplicity of the style enables us to grasp the names straight and unafflicted without any scholarly disposition. Therefore, during this Purushottam Mass, Purushottam month, as we discussed in our last session, is highly, highly beneficial for everyone, whether you sing it, whether you say it, whether you hear it. It all brings auspiciousness, and all these fruits, most importantly, it brings purity. And Purushottam Mass will actually do its own job by providing you with the great benefits of this. Vishnu Sahasranam Stotram. I have laid out 2 sections of the stotra, and I will share examples of what the stotra or the lines dictate. There are first 2 names. Bear with me. Nope. Shuklam Baradharam Vishnu Shashivarnam Chaturubhujam Prasanavadanam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopa Shantaye. One should meditate for the removal of all obstacles upon Sri Vishnu, who is clad in white garments. One who has luster like the moon, who has 4 arms and a beneficent face. The second stanza talks about taking refuge in Vishwaksena, who always eliminates all the hindrances, the commander of the elephant-faced attendants, and the numerous others. Unlike other texts, the style is more intuitive and intellectual. It aids the devotees to get himself absorbed. The first 2 names, Vishwam Vishnu, the universe, and the Lord of Provision, points out that the whole universe is one form of the Lord. It leads the reader straight back to the description of the Vishwaroop of the Lord, which is presented in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 3. The last of the 1,000 names, Vasudev, the Lord who lives in all through the behavior of everyone, speaks of the second of the three steps to be practiced by a devotee and which are described clearly by Vedvyasji in the beginning of his final scripture, the Srimad Bhagavatam. In that text, the author has prescribed 3 steps of spiritual practice which lead to the ultimate goal of liberation. They are Vishnu, who pervades the name, form, and the other objects of the senses and mind. Vasudev, the Lord who lives in everyone and presides over the behavior of everyone. Sri Narayan, in whom the devotee finds the ultimate liberation of his individual consciousness. The first step fills the mind and senses with the presence of the Lord. The second step leads to a release of the 17 emotions of the astral plane that are ever stimulated into expressions of anger, envy, lust, etc. While witnessing the behavior of others, the third step places the purified consciousness of the soul in its proper abode, the oversoul, who is the spirit in all. Just for your information, we just talked about this verse in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, Shlok 23. And this is confirmed by God's grace in this Vishnu Sahasranam. The first 2 names, Vishwam, Vishnu, along with the last 3 names, Narayan, Vishnu, and Vasudev, suggest 3 steps which can be achieved by chanting just these names as mantras. The last word of the text is a verb which means benediction. It is abhirakshatu. Abhirakshatu means may he always protect us in all ways, in all the ways possible. This is a speciality to this text. The whole passage becomes a sentence which means, may the Lord of all these 1,000 names protect me. Now, all the names can be meditated as a separate sentence or a mantra. The 12 names of Lord Vishnu are often used for every Achman or the holy sip in all the rituals, whatever pujas that we perform. These 12 names of the Lord are taken, whatever puja we do. They form part of the 1,000 names. The set of 24 names of the Lord are used in ancient Indian rituals. They also form a part of this text. And the great occult passage called Narayan Kavacham, the shield of the Lord Narayan. We've talked about this during our mantra session and also during the COVID situation. Now, this Narayan Kavacham is given by Vedvyasji in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 6th chapter. It is a passage which conceals great occult weapons of unimaginable power and strength. So, the mantras given in the text form part of the present text. Also in the Ramayana of Sri Valmiki Ji, there is another similar text of mantras. It is also called Aditya Hridaya Stotra, the heart of the solar Lord. The mantras given in that text form part of the present text. Yeah? And that is on this fourth one, the fourth line. Anybody who chants this is free from the conditioning of the world's mundane and spiritual. And one who wants wisdom will know all the philosophy. And the ruler meets with success, and the businessman finds significance, achievement in his wealth. The laborer attains happiness. The seeker of law realizes what law is in the real sense. Basically, anybody who is in any profession will attain the greatest heights in whatever profession they are in when they take these names. Anybody wants accomplishments of any sort will be achieved. If one wants a child will be achieved by chanting this 1,000 names without any desire. They become prominent in the society and is known as inevitable because the wealth lies in the stability and prosperity lies in his virtue. The Lord's divine aura keeps him in strength, beauty, and virtue. The unhealthy one finds himself healthy. The imprisoned realizes freedom. People who are frightened are freed from fear. And one who is astonished will be out of peril. Everyone stands above and beyond his own hurdles by chanting the prayer of the Supreme Person, Vishnu Sahasranamam Stotra. The sons of the death have to take refuge in the living God, and they too find culmination in Him. Everywhere we find fear of birth, fear of disease, old age, and death. And currently, the whole world is engaged in this COVID-19, the fear of COVID. These fears can be eliminated by the Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra. One who lives beyond these fears by chanting the 1,000 names of the Lord with devotion. This is because a devotee of the Lord bears no malice, no anger, no hatred, and no coveted expectation of anything. Remember that the vault of heavens, decorated with the sun, moon, and the sparkling, is kept intact by the Lord of all the 14 planes, who lives in every one of them, and He pervades all. The whole creation, which includes the gods, demons, and the beings, astral, etheric, etherical, and mythological existence, is in obedience to the Lord. Your own mind, senses, discrimination, ability, brilliance, valor, courage, your own abode, and the dweller of the above are also pervaded by the living Lord, Paramatma, within each and every one of us. Every science starts with a tradition, and the tradition starts with the law in the background. The Lord, beyond the law, is the living Lord of all. Therefore, In short, Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra, performed or listened to during this particular month, will bring all the fruits to one, knowingly or unknowingly. I was in two minds whether I should take all the shlokas one by one and explain them. I have gone into the generic view and the first few stanzas. I would also like to play a recording of the Vishnu Sahasranam, just the first 2-3 shlokas. So if you kindly bear with me and just look at the screen as well, so you will understand how it's said and feel the essence of what I've just shared. So just bear with me. I'm just going to share only a couple of stanzas. There you are. That's the beautiful starter of Vishnu Sahasranama. There is 1,000 names of the Lord, and I just played a few stanzas for you. And for those of you interested in understanding the meaning of the whole Vishnu Sahasranam, please kindly send me a message and I'll share that with you. However, for those who just want to get a gist of it, then it's available on the slides. And this is the beauty of the 1,000 names of Shri Vishnu. And it is resided in the Anushtup Chanda. We discussed that during our first session. First few sessions when we talked about the Veds, the four Veds, etc. And I shall stop here and take on any questions that one may have.